Watch the ride.
Hey everybody. So I got this question the other day, and it's a good question actually, because it's something that I've had to answer before, and I've not really heard anyone talk about it before. So let's just talk about it, and this is what I kind of know of it and how it's all kind of a bit silly. So when you go to insure your bike, you have to declare all your modifications, and one of those modifications more than likely is going to be exhaust. And they'll say, do you have, a third-party exhaust? Yes, I do. Is that a performance or a cosmetic exhaust? Of course, your natural want is to say it's cosmetic, it doesn't add any power to it, because you think they're going to sting you on the premium if it does. But equally, lots of people believe that putting on an aftermarket exhaust is going to gain them some power. Now, this is where it's kind of a bit in my understanding, because just because you put a free-flowing exhaust on your bike doesn't mean it's necessarily going to produce more power. Because if your intake isn't modified, if you haven't changed the tuning or the jetting or anything like that, then you could actually lose power, quite possibly. And many of these exhausts claim to give you an extra 5 brake horsepower. Who's going to even notice 5 brake horsepower? You're not going to notice that. I believe on 2 strokes it's far more effective power gains that can be had through proper exhausting. But again, you have to match that. Just because it can let air out quicker doesn't mean that it's getting more fuel, and thus making it more powerful, or, well, depending on the mix, So when it comes to answering the question for the insurance company, I just tend to say, yeah, it's a performance exhaust. Just because I don't want that scenario where they go, oh, well, hang on a minute, you've crashed and it appears your bike has a performance exhaust on it. It's like, well, prove it was giving me performance. Prove that it was giving me any extra power. You'd have to dyno it before and after it was crashed. Oh, well, you can't. But maybe it's classed as one because it's sold as the fact that it does it, even though lots of aftermarket exhausts are sold in the vein that they give you more power, and many people believe they do. That is just a bias to wanting that to be true because you've paid the money for the exhaust. The reality of it is, it makes more noise. It seems like it's more powerful. This also comes down to exactly what exhaust it is, because if you buy a particular exhaust which has been designed and has been engineered and tested to produce power on your bike, to produce more power, then yeah, it's probably going to make more of a difference, and you can be more sure of the gains you get from that. But with that will be a recommended map, an ECU flash or a rejet. In the same way that a lot of people will just get a bike, change the intake from an airbox to like a K&N, they'll put a free-flowing exhaust on it, and not do anything to the jetting, the tuning, or anything like that, and just assume it's running right. It's probably not running right at all. For example, my DRZ, I haven't changed the intake on it, actually. I haven't even done the 3x3 mod, which is a 3x3 inch hole. I have changed the exhaust to a freer flowing exhaust, but I have also rejetted it to compensate for that on the 440 kit, which has also been put in it. And we seem to have hit a pretty good point with that. My XJ6, I haven't changed the intake at all. I haven't blocked up the EGR valves, hence why it pops and crackles so much. If you ever wonder why my XJ6 pops and crackles and backfires, it's because it's still got the emissions valve in there that allows fresh air to be shot through the exhaust to help burn off excess fuel. And that's why when it's cold and it's basically the equivalent of having the choke on, it's running with a bit richer to get it to warm up. First few miles, that bike shoots like that long flames out the side of it, and then for the rest of the ride it pops and crackles a bit on it decelerating. I haven't remapped that bike, but that bike has got an O2 sensor on it, and the maker of that exhaust, Black Widow, state for that bike, for their exhaust for that bike, the O2 sensor is going to cover it. I'm not entirely sure if that is trustworthy. It probably isn't. It probably could do with a remap. It probably could benefit from a remap, but at the same time, it runs fine. So although I've done basically the background work to changing the exhaust on this bike, other than intake, I still wouldn't say this was a performance increase. I couldn't tell. But if I'm asked for my insurance, I'm like, yeah, it's performance. I can't say I noticed any great change on my premium. So if you want to shed any light on this, if you've got anything to add, please do. I'm not an expert, but I think I understand this well enough to know that basically it's too much of a generalised question to say whether an exhaust is a performance upgrade or not, unless it happens to be one that is specifically designed for that bike and you've done all the other bits behind it. I don't think you could class it as a performance exhaust. So you could even lose power if you get it wrong. But with the insurance companies, I actually don't think it makes much difference, and I tend to just say, yeah, whatever, performance. As I say, that's what I tend to do. I might be making a big mistake. I might be spending an extra 20 quid a year because I say performance rather than cosmetic. I don't know, but it's just an interesting question, because whenever you go to do your insurance, they ask you questions that are just like, well, if you actually understood anything about bikes, that's not really a question I can answer. But they want you to, because that's not their problem. It's your problem to provide the information the best you can. So, give them the information the best you can. You can still be wrong, I guess. It's just as long as you believed it. Anyway, yes, I'm in Tesco's again. Okay, I had to pick up some stuff. Stop it, leave me alone. We'll do some more nicer rides soon when the weather's a bit more pleasant. If you enjoyed this video and the other content on the channel, please consider following the links in the description to show your support.